Hey there, welcome back to my channel, Strength Things by Mel. My name is Melissa. I'm a stay-at-home mom living in Vancouver, Canada, also with my cat Tiberius. And on my channel, I like to chat and share everything about my knitting hobby. So first, today I'm going to get started with my daughter's mini Nordic Bloom vest. And just to be clear, there is no actual child size pattern for the Nordic Bloom vest. I modified the existing adult pattern, which is by Caitlin Hunter or Boylan Knitworks. And this pattern originally was part of a publication from Lina in the Nordic Knits magazine, but it is available for individual purchase on Ravelry. I believe if Caitlin Hunter has her own website, probably through there as well, if you are interested. So if you have been following along, then you know I've already made myself a Nordic Bloom vest. Sorry, I gotta close the door. My cat opened. And so for my version, um, some of you will know that I accidentally knit it 3 sizes too big. So if you'd like to know the journey, there was a separate video for that and a little bit of a chat of it in my last podcast episode. But I will not be getting into what happened there. But here is my vest. It's a size 2. And I've got kind of like a dark green and kind of a lighter beige color for my flowers. So this pattern features a repeating flower motif on the bottom part of the body, underneath the underarms. It is worked bottom up and has a V-neck opening, a 1 by 1 rib button band, and drop shoulders, sleeve openings if you're doing the vest. And there is a cardigan version as well, which is included in the same pattern. So it's nice that there's the vest version and the cardigan option all in one pattern. There are 9 adult sizes included in the pattern. But when I was working on my version, my daughter was admiring it throughout the whole process, especially as soon as she saw that there were flowers. I got a lot of, ooh, mom, that's nice, so pretty. And by the time I had finished it and actually started to wear it, is when my daughter started asking, kind of hinting, Mom, can I have one too? And she wanted one exactly like mine. She said she wanted the same colors, which I was surprised. I thought maybe she'd choose something else, but, very flattered and that she wanted to be just like Mama's. So I happen to have extra yarn from this project. So first of all, um, needed to figure out if I could first adapt this pattern to my daughter's size. So between all of the sizes, the height and the width of this motif is the exact same from all the sizes, size 1 to 9, or sorry, 1 to 8. So correct. There are 8 sizes in this pattern. So from sizes 1 to 8, this motif is the same height and the same width. There's even the same distance between each of these flowers. So that is all the same. So what is different between the sizes is the number of the full repeats, because there are no half or quarter repeats for this motif. And then everything that happens from the armhole up, that's where you're going to see differences between the sizes. I believe they all have the same angle for the V-neck opening, and they all have this kind of like drop shoulder look to it. So what I did was wrap my vest around my daughter to see how many repeats she would require. So mine is size 2 and it has 8 repeats. So wrapping this around my daughter determined that 5 repeats would be good. 6 repeats was definitely possible, but it would be quite, I wouldn't say quite oversized on her, but it would be roomy, and I think too roomy, especially given the drop shoulder on her slender. She's in beanpole phase right now. If you're a parent, you know what I mean. And so I decided to go with 5 because she does like things to be a little bit fitted. Sure, there is an existing vest, a store-bought vest in her wardrobe, which I based some of the measurements off of, which I'll get to in a moment. So determined that I needed 5 repeats around. So next needed to figure out whether I had enough yarn. And so looking at the yarn requirements in this pattern, so this information I believe is publicly available on the Ravelry page already, just like saying how much yarn you need. So I'm not sharing anything very specific to this pattern. It is a paid pattern. But I started looking at the vest one, and sorry, I'm going to be working in meters because I like working in meters metric. And looking at the difference between each size. So I started doing the math, size 8 minus size 7 in terms of yarn requirements for the main color, which in my case is the green. And it turned out to be very consistent number, which I was surprised because I thought, given that the upper portion of this vest would be different from each size, but the yarn requirement is listed at a very consistent rate of difference of 45 meters between the sizes. So that's for the main color. Also did the math for the contrast color as well. Now the contrast color is the one that I definitely expected it to be a very consistent rate or difference, sorry, in between each size because the motif is the exact same for all the sizes. And that one was about 24 meters difference between each of the sizes for the contrast color, which in my case, it's called Oyster Heather. Sorry, I didn't mention the yarn I used is wool of the Andes worsted from Knit Picks. The green is large heather and the flowers are in Oyster Heather. It is a slightly lighter weight from the suggested yarn in the pattern. The suggested yarn is a more of an Aran weight, but I liked mine. I got the same row gauge and the kind of like the drape and everything is nice in mine. So no complaints about using a substitute for my version. So given that that it's a consistent difference, so for the contrast color, so the difference equals one flower motif essentially. So for the smallest size, you have 164 meters required to do 7 repeats is what's in the size 1. So 164 minus 48 because I'm subtracting 2 motifs and each motif is 24 meters. I get 116 meters required for the contrast color for my daughter's vest. Do the same kind of math for the main color. So there's 330 meters required for size 1, which has 7 repeats. Subtract 90 because the difference is 45 meters. So 330 minus 90 is 240 meters required for the main color. Now this is where I was most concerned about because I didn't have a lot of main color left over. And in fact, I didn't actually have full skeins. A lot of it was like frogged yarn from my vest. So I weighed it and it was exactly 120 grams, which is exactly 240 meters. So plus or minus whatever kind of error you have when you're measuring things. But so I had the exact amount for the main color. And then for the contrast color, really wasn't worried about it because I had 2 full skeins plus a little bit extra. But also what I determined for my daughter was that the height of the full motif was just going to be too long for her. I didn't want a vest that was going to it was going to go past her butt essentially. So for my daughter's version, I took out a set of the leaves. And so there's only 2 leaves. Whereas in the original, it's kind of hard to hold up. I'll hold up the panel that I had cut out. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see here, there's like stacked leaves in the adult version. And then for my daughters, I took out 1 set of leaves and it worked out to be a really good body length for my daughter. And so it's essentially like literally just cutting this out. these leaves out. I didn't mess with any stitch counts for the motif, just cut that out. If you decide to try to do this modification, my recommendations, if you're figuring out size, is maybe adding some main color, or in my case, the green, in between the flowers if you want to get a little bit more room that way. Or if you want a little bit more height, add some more main color after the ribbing. So there's some 1x1 ribbing here at the bottom. Add some more main color here before you start your flower. And maybe after the flower before you split the fronts and the backs for the armholes if you need a little bit more body length. That way also you can knit some more ribbing if you'd like. The overall look though, I didn't want to add more to the ribbing, so I actually stuck to the same length of ribbing on, actually no I did not, I did shorter ribbing on my daughter's, just, in proportion, thinking of her body size. So I did half the amount of ribbing that the adult pattern has for my daughter. Hey, I have to interrupt myself because I realized, you can see, it's later in the day, editing. I realized I didn't discuss the number of stitches to cast on for Darcy's, my daughter's, Nordic Bloom vest. So there is a formula that all the sizes, size 1 to 8 in the adult pattern, follow. And so I have followed that same formula for my daughters. So you take the number of repeats. So for the mini version, I have 5 repeats. And so you multiply that by the number of stitches in a single repeat. So for this pattern, the single repeat is from, you got to look at the chart, but it's, it's roughly, like a flower, a single flower. So for my case, 5 times the number of stitches from here to there. I'm not going to say the number because this is a paid pattern. Do that plus 3. If you have the pattern and you have the chart, the plus 3, you'll see why. And all of the sizes follow this pattern. So the formula is the number of repeats, number of flowers you have, times the number of stitches in a single flower, and plus 3. And that will give you the number of stitches to cast on. So if you're modifying upwards, a larger size, or going downwards like myself, or a children's size. And there you have it. And so next was figuring out how to do the shaping the v-neck. So I quite liked the angle of the v-neck of the adult, so I decided to stick with that for my daughter. The compromise for that, or the result, or consequence I should say, of that is that her shoulder area is a little bit narrower in comparison to the adult version, but she's, slimmer proportionally, a little bit different. So it worked out for her, and I still have the drop shoulder on her version as well. So this up here is based on a vest that she has in her closet. So I don't really have any special formula or math to provide you guys with, but I highly recommend measuring something that's already in your child's closet, and then using your row gauge, figuring out, how many rows do I need to get to here, and then also taking into consideration the decreases that you have for the v-neck opening. And just like the original adult pattern, I did include short rows. Of course, I have a different number of stitches going across here, so there are wrap and turn short rows in this pattern. So in the pattern, it will say knit until this many stitches remaining, wrap and turn. So for my daughters, I did like knit until there was 2 stitches remaining, wrap and turn, 2 stitches before the last wrap and turn, and did the same number of short rows as the original pattern. I think, I can't remember how many there were. There's not a lot. So yeah, and then did the same pickup rate because I'm working with the same gauge as the original, same pickup rate for the button band and the armholes. It is just like the adult pattern. It is a bit of my preference, but I think it is, someone was saying that Caitlin Hunter's patterns have kind of smaller armholes. The armhole was snug on my daughter, so I did have to quite aggressively block this out because when I first tried it on, and she had this look like she was not happy with how it was feeling in the armpit area. And I said, okay, I had to quickly say, like, you know what? Mama can block this out. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. Don't worry. It's going to be more comfortable. So unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to get a photograph of my daughter in this because, I finished it and then we had a very warm end of April, beginning of May, like summer temperatures. And so, I wasn't even wearing mine. Like it was just much too warm to wear it. It's funny, and I mentioned it to my daughter, like, "Hey, you asked for this vest and you haven't worn it yet, sir." And then she said, "Oh, I'm waiting. I'm gonna wear it as my summer vest, Mom." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. Like, you're probably gonna be too warm." But she's kind of this weird kid that's like, it's hot out and she wants to be covered up, and then when it's cold out, like in winter, she'll be wearing like shorts and a tank top inside the house, like running around, and I'm in my, full sweaters and pants. So whatever, if she wants to wear a sweater vest in the summer, by all means, she can. Like she was wearing pants and long sleeves when we were in Mexico. So, okay. She knows herself well enough. As long as I can, if I see her and she's not, you know, actually overheating, then they're not going to get like heat stroke or something, then she can wear this in the summer if she wants to. Girl loves fashion. She loves picking out her own outfits. She's been doing it since she was 3, dressing herself. Something she wakes up and looks forward to doing. It's really cute, actually. She wakes up on days that she has preschool and she like does a flat lay of her outfit with like the socks and everything, picks out her headband, her hair accessories, tells me how she wants to do her hair. It's very cute. Um, so I managed to finish complete this vest with some yarn left over. I actually had some, you know, not enough to really brag about, but not really little enough to say like I won yarn chicken. It was like a good amount. Was it enough to make a swatch? Maybe. So that's the thing about these yarn estimates is I would hope that they include a swatch. And so I think I could have maybe made a swatch plus this vest is how much yarn I have left over in terms of the main color, contrast color. I got another like, I don't even know if I actually cracked into my full skeins because I had that much left over. But here we go. Um, that is my daughter's mini Nordic Bloom vest. It even has the same buttons as mine because that was something my daughter said. She definitely wanted the same buttons and everything exactly the same as mine. So very cute. Um, when the time comes when we're actually wearing it at the same time, we'll definitely try to snap a pic. Um, but yeah, until then, we just have to enjoy the pics of it without not on our bodies. In case you're wondering, I am wearing one of my Paul cardigans. This is a pattern from Mork Knit. This is a superwash yarn from, it's Drops Baby Merino. What is this? I have a snake. That's totally normal. I'll fix that later. Drops Baby Merino held single, so I have a bit more drapier, airier fabric than what is suggested from the pattern. But I like this version because it's just really easy to wear. It's kind of this nice gray color, so if things get on it like food and stuff, like it's okay. It's not as visible. But yeah, this is my Paul cardigan in just like a gray Drops Baby Merino. For me, a pretty relatively inexpensive yarn, in case you're wondering what I had on today. So next up is another gray Drops yarn item. I finished my broken rib pullover. Still don't have a name for it, but I finished it. Now this is something that I, completely self-drafted, trying to kind of mimic a sweater that my daughter has in her wardrobe for something I test knit for my friend Sarah Noel Knits, the Cameron pullover. The original version is a color block one. I did mine all in one color. And it's just this cozy, oversized pullover featuring broken rib stitch in a children's size. And I just had always been jealous of Darcy's ever since I finished it. So finally, been sat down, started doing the numbers and figuring out how to make my version. It's not perfect. I don't love my shoulder construction, mainly because I was doing my increases too tightly on kind of like the back slope. And then I didn't like the overall silhouette because it's so sloped. So here's the collar and it's so sloped. And then you pick up for the sleeves and there's like this, like quite an angle here. And on my body it doesn't look too bad. Even actually my hairstylist, I got my haircut this past weekend and she said she really liked the overall shape of it, which was really nice. But I think it's something that I would kind of tweak if I were to ever make this again. I would probably just change up the shoulder construction, still create like sloped shoulders, but maybe use short rows. So yeah, I'm not creating this pattern from other people. It's just purely something for myself. Sorry if that disappoints anyone, but this is just something to make for myself. I just don't really have the capacity or really the training to grade this to more sizes at this time. I know I could get a tech editor, but just not something I'm looking to do at this time. I did short rows on the fronts as well, just to like help create a nice drape over the shoulders, and the fit is really nice. I really like that I switched from doing a fold over collar to just a single layer collar. It goes better with the overall vibe and feel of the sweater. It goes with the kind of the single layered 1x1 rib cuffs that I have here. There is no elastic in the sweater right now, but there's, lots of room for my head to go through. I do have a small head, but I think I will add an elastic into the collar, just for durability and longevity of that. So this is all Drops Air in the medium gray color. Now, Drops Air is a blown yarn, and I was explaining in my last podcast, some people might think like, why would you use such a fuzzy yarn for a stitch pattern like this? Does, does the stitch pattern get a bit lost in the fuzziness? And it kind of does, but I was explaining it as a way to get a bit of structure from the fabric. This yarn is very light and it's very light on the body. It's just like wearing kind of like a cloud. So it doesn't just like necessarily hang as much as say 100% wool garment. And so I wanted to play with that and get kind of like a sweatshirt like structure out of the fabric. I would have had to knit, I think, at a bit of a tighter gauge to really get that, but it's really comfortable. I don't feel too hot in it. It's really cozy and soft. I have really big sleeves. There's only a few decreases right here at the beginning. And because of the stitch pattern, you kind of have to do these almost like double decreases to maintain the stitch pattern. So you end up having fewer like decrease points when you're working with this stitch, at least the way that I've done it. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you know that I cut into my sleeves. And I didn't block my sleeves out because I wanted to wear it because we finally got some cooler days to wear it. So my sleeves, because I was just knitting round and round and round, enjoying it so much. And I was like, yeah, just eyeballing it. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good length. And then once I blocked it, it was like way too long. And I've always been curious about the like cutting and grafting method that I've seen some people do. And I did have some people ask me like, why? Like, why would you do that? And Some people, I even put out a poll on Instagram, like, would you cut into it or would you frog it? The results from the poll, were mixed. Some people even said that they would just leave it as is. For me, like, no way was I going to leave it as is. It was just like way too long because the cuffs are so wide. I couldn't like wash dishes. That's kind of my metric there, whether the sleeves are too long or not. It's like, can I wash dishes in this sweater? Um, and I could not. So decided to cut into it because I really wanted to try the grafting method, but also this yarn is relatively inexpensive for me, pretty easy to purchase. And so I wasn't worrying about, wasting the yarn. It is a point that someone brought up. They were saying how, if it was with their yarn, they would have gone through the effort to frog it because they like to save their yarn. If it was something that was really expensive or precious, which I totally get. If this was like a smoother hand-dyed yarn, I probably would have just frogged it. But because I had blocked it, and this yarn, once you've blocked it, it's got really good like Velcro factor. So after blocking, the fibers do really stick together. So it's not the most pleasant experience for frogging. So that's why I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to try cutting it out. I think I have, it is a little bit more than this because you have to frog a bit to get to the correct round that you're going to graft together. But that's like essentially the amount of chunk that I cut out from my sleeve. And then just imagine, a little bit of rows above and below because I didn't want to cut off the loops that I needed to graft. So this was like a conservative amount to cut out. But you can see like how well the stitches stick together. Like they're really not budging unless I physically like go in and pull out of the loops. But it's not felted, but the fibers are velcroed together there. And it took a while, but it was a really kind of fun experience. And just to know if something ever happened that, grafting is an option to fix something. So one sleeve, I will admit, I think the tension is a little bit tight, but maybe I could block it out. So you can kind of see more in this sleeve. I went a little bit tight there, but honestly, it's not very noticeable when I wear it. So eventually, maybe I'll reblock the sleeve, or maybe not. I'll just wait till it's time to um, give this sweater a wash when it's the end of the season. But yeah, that was really fun to do, actually. Some of you might be like, cutting and grafting was fun. Like, yeah, it tickled a part of my brain that was like, yeah, I would, yeah, I'm glad I did that. Um, the overall length turned out perfectly in my opinion. So that's where I actually paid attention and counted out my rows based on my gauge, like how to do the length. For whatever reason, I just like shut off and just did not do that for my sleeves, which is so unlike me to not, calculate that in advance and figure that out. But it's okay. It's just like, enjoying the knitting part. So that's what happened. I find this really easy to wear. The collar is nice. Like there's a little bit of a peekaboo of a shirt underneath, and that's what I wanted. I like that look of like my crew neck shirt peeking out. Now that I've finished it, I kind of want to make another one, but a cardigan version. So there is a sale at Wool Warehouse right now. I think it's for one more week. Drops Air is on sale. So I'm considering buying a cardigan quantity of it. Something I can do in the fall, but trying to hold out. Although, I'm probably going to cave and buy it anyways because I really like specifically want another Drops Air broken rib version. So, probably going to buy it while it's on sale. But yeah, that's something to look forward to in the fall is making a cardigan version of it and experimenting with the shoulder construction, but going to make like the same size essentially. So I get to work with the same numbers for the most part. But yeah, that is my broken rib pullover. Um, Great name. Yes, I know. Very original. Sticking with it. Okay, I'm going to finish today's episode with a couple of whips I've been working on. Um, I have not been knitting furiously like compared to last year. I think it's being in our house and having a yard and just wanting to be outside and like tending to the garden and all that has been like my main pull right now. I'm still knitting, but I was kind of having this weird feeling like I want to knit, but I don't want to knit anything for myself. But I don't necessarily want to be gift knitting. It was just part of it was this feeling of like I'm adding all these things to my wardrobe and I'm not really wearing them, but I am, but I'm not styling them. I don't know. Not to say that, every outfit has to be like hyper stylized and that doesn't really go with my lifestyle here. But I wasn't giving myself or haven't been giving myself enough time to not just wear them, but also have fun and create different outfits with what I've created. So I've decided that, like I need to slow down. I need to do some more experimentation in terms of, how to wear all these knits I'm creating. So I went through a period of just working on my sweet shop blanket that I have been working on for a year and a half now. And it was really good to have that because I still wanted to knit. I still wanted to keep my hands busy. And then I do have plans to do some knitting for my daughter, of course. So, there are ways, have been ways around this weird feeling that I was having. But I decided to, you know, go back to my knitting queue and I decided to cast on the Sadie Sweater, which is a pattern from Ozetta. And it's kind of it's a drop shoulder, very casual, like rolled hem, a pullover. And this one in particular, the suggested yarn, I think it's like there's some plant-based content in there, or like cotton, maybe there's some silk, I can't remember. But I thought it'd be a good one for the Happy Place yarn that I have from Hobie, which is from Tony Lipsy collaboration that I bought quite some time ago. This is the label. And I have here the color Sand from the Melange line. So there's solid and there's melange. So the melange, what happens is that, so the content is 50% wool, 50% cotton. I don't know if the wool is merino or not, but the wool gets dyed and the cotton remains undyed in the melange line. Now I have the sand one, which is the lightest color, so it's not as noticeable, but I don't know if you can really see. It's a very subtle melange in the sand colorway that I have. But decided to cast on and then was just like obsessed with it. So I've actually done quite a bit in just like a weekend. I don't know, it looks kind of small next to me, but again, this is the effect of working on oversized sweaters. When you work on something that doesn't have, like 20 centimeters of positive ease, it just looks tiny. But I sure it's gonna fit the measurements. So this is a size small that I've cast on. Of course, it's not blocked as well. And I've joined in the round. So now this is the perfect, like, take this to watch my daughter swim class, watch her gymnastics projects. Now I'm just like working in the round. It's also on 4mm needles, which is like my favorite size. And it's just like a nice break from this other project that I'm working on. It's funny when it's like, oh, I need to give my hands a break, but really it just means I need to work on a different project of different needle size. So are you guys like that? If you are a multi-project, multi-whip person, do you have different sized needle projects that you like switch back and forth to? Like intentionally do that? Because there are some other summer projects I want to do, but I don't want to work on, like, I don't want to have 3 whips that are all on 3mm needles. But that's also kind of all I want to knit right now is everything that would be on 3mm needles. I don't know, what a dilemma to have, right? So yeah, so this is my Sadie sweater, size small, just because I like a little bit of extra room. I also go by my upper bust measurement and not my full bust measurement. I've got an hourglass shape and it's like really goes in. So my upper bust measurement is actually larger than my full bust, not by a lot. It's also good to go with your upper bust measurement. If you ever had any issues about getting the right fit around your shoulders, like your upper bust is going to help you with that shoulder fit area. Um, I don't know if it's going to exact science, but that's like what I've read in some other things, is to go by your upper bust there. But the fabric feels really nice. I'm sure it's going to feel a little bit like slightly heavy or dense because of the cotton, but we'll see. I'm excited to have this to like throw on when we go to the beach. Also because it is machine washable, don't have to worry about felting. Because I'm sure there's, it's gonna get sand and stuff in it. If I wear it to the beach. But yeah, this one I'm just picturing it layered over like a tank top. I got like my gingham shorts that I sewed last year. I was just like kind of like boxer short style and just like really casual outfits. I'm thinking of not doing the rolled hem like exactly that's done in the pattern. I'm thinking of doing a different bind up, but still kind of doing that rolled look, but not super rolled because I feel like this particular fabric, this yarn is going to really roll. I don't know if I'm going to like that. So may make some modifications for that, but so far just following the pattern as is. So last item for today is my other whip, and I don't know if I actually said it out loud, but I said I was gonna not do any test knits, or at least for like a good period of time, like give myself a break. And then Inesh from Vert Knit put out a test call for this beautiful dress, which she wore for her engagement photos last year or the year before. I don't know, last year. So I actually tested a dress, the Milady's dress for her last year, which is a maxi length dress knit on 3mm needles using Knitting for All of Pure Silk. And here I am again knitting a dress on 3mm needles, also planning to do maxi length. I was kind of saying that to her, I was like, I think maybe knitting a dress is turning into an annual thing. But I saw it and I definitely wanted to jump on the opportunity because knitting a dress like this, I don't know, like myself personally, if I could do it and finish it without having a deadline. I like the deadline, I like the pressure. I like having a goal of like, I'm going to wear this on this date to get myself to finish it. Not that you should, not that that should be the reason why you knit everything, although it is kind of fun to have that kind of goal. I just know that I get easily distracted or can convince myself otherwise. So, got accepted. And so I've started this. This is the girl dress, and it is not as modest as the Milady's dress. There's some options that we're working in the task group. Some people um, to change that, like if you want to make it more bra strap friendly or whatnot. But I'm knitting it um, as you see it in her Instagram photos. And so can't say too much about it because it is a test knit, but I can show you what I've done so far. So I've knit, the front is like a wrap. Oh, I've got a lot of yarn tails coming out here, but it's like a deep crossover V, although I wouldn't say it's like super revealing, at least how it's turned out on me. It's modest enough for me. I mean, I'm not going to be wearing a bra with this. This is, that's fine. And it's black, so you can't really see too much what's going on here, but this is Knitting for All of Pure Silk in the color Coal, which I purchased a dress quantities worth last year when I was making the Milady's dress. When I ordered the yarn for that dress, I also ordered a dress quantity in black because at that time hadn't even like started the Milady's dress, but I just thought like, you know what, I'm gonna want a black dress. I don't know if it's gonna be a Milady's dress, but I know I'm gonna want a black one. And I'm glad I did because when it came time to when all the testers were selected and when it came time to ordering yarn, this black color coal was sold out and was like maybe available at the end of the month kind of thing. And so I think I'm the only one knitting with black, knitting for All of Pure Silk, unless someone else has it in their stash. But yeah, I think I'm the only one knitting it in black. And so I'm doing size 2. This dress I would say is like maybe easier than the Milady's dress in terms of you don't have to take as many precise measurements. You still have to take measurements of your body. This isn't like a no-ease dress, but I don't know, it just feels faster. Also because there's like no back to it as well. Like I've already joined to knit in the round, and now from this point on, I'll be knitting. There's a waistband and then just like the skirt and then the I-cord straps after. But yeah, that's essentially like all the flat knitting is done, and I just have to knit in the round until it reaches my ankles. So this time around, like I guess my fingers are accustomed to knitting with 3mm needles and knitting with silk. Like I don't feel as much fatigue with this one as I did with the Miletus dress, which is kind of nice. It's like achievement unlocked. Now I wouldn't say knitting endlessly with pure silk, but um I've told people before, I've said this before, like my first experience of trying to knit with pure silk on 3mm needles made me nauseous looking and kind of concentrating and figuring out how to hold such small needles. Because I had never knit anything with such small needles before. It actually made me nauseous. So I'm really happy that I've come a long way. So that's pretty much all I've been up to in terms of like knitting. It's not a lot. It's slow and enjoying the slowness of it, letting myself, be outside. I just love being outside. Even today, I was like, do I want to sit and make a video? And then I was like, no, I should. I'm going to, because I still enjoy talking about knitting. But after this, I'm going to be back out in the garden, digging more holes. That's what I do now. But thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, happy knitting. Bye.